Okay, some of the African countries, Burkina Faso has joined. Some of the African countries has joined hands with Burkina Faso to fight against the Western manipulations and Western um, powers ruling over their countries. Like they have joined hands to say no. They are tired of Western ruling. They are tired of all the political games happening in their countries. Despite gaining our independence, but yet our country is being controlled. We are tired. We are tired. So countries like Mali, Niger has joined hands with Burkina Faso to form a military alliances in order to stand strong against the West. Well, let's just watch this video.
Once, the former president of France, Jacques Chirac, said that without Africa, France would be a third world country. And now we are seeing this happening. Major African countries that filled French gold coffers and banks are now openly joining West's rivals like China and Russia. Just a few months back, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger formed a military alliance which would declare war on any country invading any of these three countries. Not only that, but these three countries formed a confederation, which simply means a single united country. And what if this alliance joins BRICS? For the West, especially France, it's a nightmare. The situation is the same as was when Muammar Gaddafi was preparing to launch gold dinar, but was assassinated. So, are Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali really joining Brics? And how high-stakes meetings are carried out in Western countries on this? Welcome to a new episode of Black Afric Diary, a channel where we talk about Black African history, culture, arts, and civilization. It's a place where you will see the real picture of Black Africa, its stories, and the events defining it. In this episode, we will tell you about Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger pushing for Brics membership, and how it will change everything. Let's get started. Just recently, news has surfaced that the three nations in the Sahel region, which are Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, have their eyes on Brics. This has initiated a series of meetings in Europe in the headquarters focused on Africa. Well, that's because, with their membership in BRICS, the West will lose access to precious resources it earlier got at the cheapest prices. Historically, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have faced deep exploitation, even after achieving independence from colonial rule. These West African nations possess abundant natural resources, including gold, uranium, oil, and other valuable minerals. But these assets were largely controlled by European powers, particularly France, even after formal decolonization. This ongoing economic stranglehold persisted under neo-colonial systems, where Western countries maintained control through financial and political dominance. Even after gaining independence, the natural resources of these countries continued to benefit Western corporations more than local populations. For example, Niger became one of the world's top uranium exporters, with much of its uranium fueling France's nuclear energy sector. Despite this wealth, Niger's population saw little improvement in their living conditions, as the profits largely flowed out of the country. Similarly, Mali's vast gold reserves, among the largest in Africa, were largely controlled by Western multinational corporations, leaving Mali heavily reliant on exporting raw materials with minimal economic development or reinvestment into the country's infrastructure. This economic exploitation was further compounded by the continued use of the CFA franc, a currency controlled by France, which required Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to keep significant portions of their reserves in the French treasury. This system limited their financial independence and kept these countries economically dependent on France. Western military bases in these nations also played a role in maintaining this control, under the guise of security efforts, which often prioritized Western strategic interests over African sovereignty. However, in recent years, A significant shift occurred as the leadership of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, under figures like Ibrahimtraore of Burkina Faso, decided to take bold steps to reclaim their sovereignty. They expelled French troops, closed Western military bases that had been stationed in their countries for decades, and canceled permits that allowed European countries to mine and steal precious resources. This move was more than symbolic. It represented a rejection of the West's paternalistic approach and a declaration that these nations would no longer rely on Western powers for their security or economic development. However, rather than isolating themselves, these nations began forming new alliances with countries traditionally considered adversaries of the West, such as Russia, China, and even North Korea. Russia, in particular, has played a significant role, providing military equipment and training as these countries look to strengthen their defense capabilities without depending on Western nations. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali knew kicking out Western troops would create a vacuum, and foreign powers would try hard to abuse this. Instability and insurgency will be encouraged by foreign powers to make their way into these countries. Therefore, it was essential to form new relations. Additionally, China has stepped in through its Belt and Road Initiative, offering infrastructure investments and trade partnerships, which further diversify these nations' economic relationships and reduce their reliance on Western markets. However, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali knew that to appear important, they first had to make an alliance of their own. This resulted in the formation of the Anti-Imperialist Alliance of Sahel States in July 2024. This military alliance was established to ensure these countries could support one another militarily and economically, free from Western interference. The AES firmed their rejection of Western military presence and demonstrated a commitment to regional sovereignty. The next strategic move for Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is their potential membership in the BRICS economic bloc. Joining Brics would further distance these nations from Western-dominated financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank, which have historically imposed austerity measures that stifled economic growth in African nations. Brics offers a more balanced global financial system, one that does not prioritize Western interests, but instead seeks to create fairer economic conditions for developing nations. This potential membership in BRICS would not only provide these nations with stronger economic support, but also offer them a platform to amplify their geopolitical influence. Brics is actively working on alternatives to the US dollar and euro, which could greatly benefit Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger as they seek to establish their own independent currency. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black Africa. Let's continue now. With their focus on Brics membership and their rejection of Western financial, political, and military systems, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are effectively closing the door on Western influence. Their newfound unity through the AES and the prospect of joining BRICS present a strong front that makes it increasingly difficult for the West to exert its traditional influence over the region. By aligning themselves with Brics, they gain access to new markets, investment opportunities, and geopolitical alliances that further distance them from their colonial past. But what specific benefits Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger can get if they join BRICS? Well, this move would help them overcome the challenges associated with being landlocked and reliant on Western-dominated systems, while providing new opportunities to enhance their economic independence, integrate into global supply chains, and access more diverse markets. Being landlocked has historically limited Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger in terms of access to global trade routes. Their reliance on neighboring countries for transit and shipping has increased trade costs and made their economies vulnerable to disruptions. ECOWAS offered a trade route and port access. However, these countries prioritized their sovereignty and left ECOWAS, calling it a Western puppet, working for Western interests. However, by joining Brics, they could leverage the vast trade networks of China. These new connections could provide alternative trade routes, using Brics resources to establish more efficient land, sea, and air logistics systems. For example, critical resources like uranium, gold, oil, and diamonds could be exported to Brics nations, which have high demand and competitive markets. This would enable Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to diversify their trade partners and break away from dependence on Western-dominated markets. These countries could also gain better bargaining power for their resources, as Brics markets are less constrained by the traditional exploitative economic arrangements imposed by Western nations. Brics membership would allow these nations to negotiate more favorable terms for their natural resources, particularly in industries such as uranium, gold, and diamonds. Brics markets, such as China and India, have enormous demand for these commodities, which could result in long-term, stable contracts that ensure better pricing and higher revenues for these nations. By breaking free from the unfair trade deals imposed by former colonial powers and multinational corporations in the West, these African countries could finally reap the benefits of their resources. China's growing demand for energy resources, for instance, could open opportunities for Niger to export uranium and oil, while Russia and India may seek to collaborate on mining projects for gold and diamonds, elevating the economic stature of these countries. And in all this, these countries will use their experience not to allow exploitation. Joining Brics would also allow Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to integrate into global supply chains for key industries like mining, agriculture, and energy. Brics members play significant roles in global manufacturing, technology, and energy production, creating an opportunity for these African nations to supply critical raw materials to these industries. Not only that, but Brics can help industrialize, which African countries need desperately. For instance, as the global demand for clean energy increases, Niger's uranium could become even more valuable in supplying nuclear power sectors in Brics nations. Similarly, Burkina Faso's diamonds and Mali's gold could be utilized in the global electronics and luxury goods markets, expanding their role beyond merely exporting raw materials. Therefore, this participation in supply chains could also lead to technology transfers, helping these nations develop their industries and add value to their exports locally, rather than relying on the export of unprocessed raw materials. Furthermore, membership in Brics could significantly reduce these countries' reliance on Western financial institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, which have historically imposed harsh austerity measures in exchange for loans. Instead, they could benefit from the more balanced and equitable economic policies advocated within Brics. Brics is working toward establishing an alternative global financial system that would reduce reliance on the US dollar and the euro, enabling countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to have greater control over their economies. For instance, Brics countries have discussed creating a Brics bank and using local currencies for trade. Such initiatives could allow these African nations to sidestep the traditional financial systems that have contributed to their economic exploitation, debt, and dependence. However, the biggest benefit of joining Brics would be the potential inclusion in China's Belt and Road Initiative, which connects over 150 countries. This massive infrastructure project aims to connect Asia, Africa, and Europe through a network of railways, ports, and highways. Integration into the BRI could bring crucial infrastructure investments to these landlocked nations, particularly in transport and logistics. For example, improved transportation systems, such as railways, highways, and airports, could link these countries to major global trade hubs, making it easier and more cost-effective for them to export goods and resources. This would reduce transit costs, improve market access, and unlock the potential for greater economic growth. In particular, Niger could benefit from improved infrastructure for transporting uranium, while Burkina Faso and Mali could see their gold and diamond exports reach global markets more efficiently. Therefore, by joining Brics, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger could also enhance their geopolitical influence, both within Africa and globally. As the first West African countries to join the bloc, they would have a unique opportunity to shape regional economic policies and trade agreements, giving them a leadership role in West Africa. This move would consolidate their sovereignty and independence from traditional Western power structures, allowing them to set their own course for development. The formation of the anti-imperialist alliance of Sahel states has already shown their commitment to working together to build a strong, unified front. Brics membership would further bolster this alliance, providing them with a platform to advocate for African interests in global forums and inspiring other African nations to seek similar partnerships. What do you think? Should Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger join Brics and openly declare they no longer need the West? Isn't it true that after this, France will be the one to lose the most, as it won't be able to survive without access to resources in Africa? In the comment section right below, share your thoughts on the role Brics can play in making these African nations exceptionally wealthy. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring videos on Black Africa, its history, rich arts and culture, and things the world should know about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Alliances like this is actually what is needed in Africa, Alliances like this is actually what is needed in Africa. I've always said Africa, we can do better, we can do best, we don't have to depend on anyone. We don't have to depend on external people to rule us. We are human beings the same way they are. We have one head the same way they have, and all the body parts in them is also in us. So I don't see a reason why we limit ourselves. We think that Africa cannot be better, or our country cannot be better without them. No, we shouldn't place such limitation in us. Africans, remember, Africans are very good people and thriving people, and most especially Africa as a continent is a continent blessed by God. Is a continent after God's heart. Yeah, God specifically made this continent and the people living in it. We are so blessed. Come on. So now makes you think? What now makes you think we can't be able to rule ourselves, or we can't be able to get things better? What now makes you think so? No, come on. All those things is the perspective they give us in order to subdue us and in order to gain control of Africa as a whole. And as you can see, these people they're actually holding Africa in captive. Okay, this started by slavery. This started during the era where they came in Africa, because all these things they saw the value Africa was, they saw the worth of Africa, they saw the beautiful things rising from the mineral resources and the loving and kind people in Africa. And and uh, they decided to lose some of these resources. They decided to lose some of these resources in order to make their countries better. You understand? In order to make their countries better and their continents better as a whole. You know. So that's how they started, by enslaving Africans. They started by um, reducing the population of Africa. Because they know the importance of uh, human resources. Yeah, Africa is a continent. It's one of the largest continents ever in the world. So all these things wouldn't be possible without first gaining control over the human being. There's no way you can gain access to a vote containing money, like thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. Uh, without um, probably killing the security man in charge of the vote, or seeking for a way to get rid of get rid of him. You understand? So the vandalization of resources in Africa, or the looting of most of these resources, wouldn't have been possible without the idea of trying to gain control over the people of Africa. So you see, that's how they actually started everything. They started everything looting Africans, you know, gaining control over all the things happening in Africa, and to the point that they ended up colonizing most of these African countries. Yeah, they ended up colonizing most of the African countries. Except few that resisted. Yeah, it's only few that resisted to be colonized. But most of the African countries were colonized by these foreign powers or these Westerners. And they actually, uh, so that's to say that most of these African countries gained their independence from different countries, different Western countries, and most of these Western countries are enriched. Like they got enriched from Africa. They got enriched. They enriched themselves from Africa, and that's why even the former president of France stated that France would have been nothing without Burkina Faso. Just to tell you that Burkina Faso is one of the countries that was colonized by France. Yeah, Burkina Faso was actually colonized by France, and as such, they have the Burkina Faso treasure in their hands. They have their resources. France actually became what they are today through Africa. Should I say with the help of Africa and Burkina Faso, particularly, So that's why even the former president confirmed it. Believe me, most of these Western countries wouldn't be anywhere without what they actually did or what they played in Africa many years ago. So that's why today it seems their countries are better and they are doing well, you know. But that still doesn't mean that everything has finished in Africa. No, all those resources they are still in Africa. Surplus, in fact, they are still surplus. Human beings, we are still recreating, we are still getting overpopulated, you know, especially here in Nigeria, which is actually the most populated the most populated country in Africa. Yeah, also known as the giant of Africa. Yeah, and that's what makes Nigeria the giant of Africa because of its populations and stuff like that. And okay, apart from the population, the economy back then, Nigeria used to be the African country with the largest economy, with the highest, largest uh, GDP or stuff like that back then, not now. Back then, I'm talking about back then, many years ago, not now, not now, not now. No. So with all those things, you just have to believe that Africa still have whatever it takes to be progress again. Africa still has whatever it takes to be stable again. But all the best, what we just need, the only thing happening in Africa is bribery and corruptions. Bribery and corruption is actually eating deep in Africa. Almost everyone is corrupt. Even me and you, even you watching me, when you look at it, you may even be corrupt. Yeah, you looking at me, watching me. If you look at it, you may even be corrupt. But I mean, I'm talking about Africa. Yeah, almost everyone in Africa is corrupt except me. Yeah, except me. I'm not corrupt. You know. So, but then when you vote people to represent you, when you vote the leaders, give them position in a political or give them political power, you know, to make things better, to make lives better for everyone, you know. Everyone voted for them to make things better, to make the economy better and things affordable for the common man in the society. But then when they are sent to the throne or to the position, they turn back at those that actually voted for them, is which is very bad. It's very wrong, you know. And many rigging, you know, rigging, people rigging election just to just to take some political powers, you know, and all these things boil down to looting of resources, looting of resources, and actually embezzling money, you know, embezzling money. And when all this money are being embezzled, like when all this money is being embezzled, it is being channeled towards the Western countries. Yeah, the same countries that actually looted Africa many years ago, we are still looting ourselves and taking those money, those resources down there. You know, is which is very sad and pathetic. You know, to be honest, it's very sad. But then this corruption has eaten deep in Africa. You know, the populations of Africa and despite the resources Africa is being possessed currently, Africans are still battling with basic amenities. You know, Africans are still battling with their lives. You know, they are still surviving hard in a hard way, which is very bad. You know, and no one actually cares, you know. The leaders are don't actually cares, you know. They don't care. They all they could do, or like all they know is how to collaborate with the Westerners, you know, the same people that caused that the same people that caused this pain to Africans many years ago. The greedy Africans are still collaborating with them, you know, to loot more of resources, you know. And this is why countries like Niger, that is Niger Republic, Mali has joined hands with Burkina Faso to say no, we are not ready anymore. We are tired of this external control. You know, we want to do our things. It's very wrong for we to be in our country and you are ruling us and you have positions. You are giving us political orders of things we should do and things we should not do in our own country. Come on, it's very wrong, you know. So these countries has come out to form a military alliances. What does these military alliances do? I mean, what is the importance of forming military alliances? It means that this country are now like brothers and sisters. I've always said this is how African should be. This is actually how African should be. I really don't know what ECOWAS stands for. Yeah, ECOWAS, which is the body holding all African countries together, joining all African countries together. I really don't know what their work is. Like, they are all still interested in the political. Well, it's also a way of gaining Western interest, you know, stuff like that. Because I see no reason why we have a body joining all African countries together, and yet we can't still stand uh, for each other. We can't still fight, join hands to fight these Western manipulations and Western controls, you know, and external controls is very unreasonable, you know. So, but meanwhile, countries like Mali, Niger Republic, and has joined hands with Burkina Faso, yeah, to form a military alliances. What these military alliances means is that when you eventually provoke one, you have provoked the rest. You understand? When you provoke the head, the tail is crying. When you provoke the tail, the head is crying. That is to say, when you touch the head, the tail is rolling. Yeah, hey, hey, does that. So that's what the alliances is actually mean. It means like they now have each other's back, and in that way, no country can trespass their boundary. No other country can come into their country and do anyhow. When you eventually provoke one country, the rest will come after you. They will join forces and fight you till they defeat you. This is definitely what is needed in Africa. I've always said it. This is what's needed in Africa. Africa need to come together and see ourselves as one. We need to come together, collaborate, have each other's back, and most especially love ourselves. The reason why it seems that the Western people are progressing more than the African people is because of the love they have for each other, and they make their countries with that love, they make their countries better. But look at South Africa. There is no love in Africa, the leaders you vote for them, they turn their back at you, and that's treating you bad. Is that so? So tell me, how do you think the country, or yeah, or how do you think the country or even the continent will progress? Uh, is 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 as a continent progress by different countries in the continent progressing. When Nigeria is progressing, South Africa is progressing, Ghana is progressing, Cameroon, Kenya. All those different African countries are progressing. Yeah, that we place value in the continent as Africa. Yeah, Africa we has pride. Coming to Africa, you will now be like, you are traveling abroad from Europe to Africa. You are really traveling abroad, and it will be very difficult. Just the way it is very difficult for Africans to travel over there in Europe. So, what do you think? So, like, what do you think? Don't you think what Niger Republic, Mali is doing with Burkina Faso, don't you think is very necessary and very good? What do you think? Share with me on the comment section. Remember, the Burkina Faso president, known as Ibrahimtraore, has over the time been fighting the Western powers, Western control and external control, trying to seek a way that they will run their affair by themselves and not being controlled by people in France. You understand? So, to me personally, I think this is the right thing all African countries to do. We all should join forces together to make things better, to make lives like to have each other's back. By so doing, the Westerners even they will be afraid. They will really be afraid to troop into Africa anyhow. But then, what do you think about it? Do you think what these countries joining forces together or forming alliance, military alliance together? Do you think is necessary for African progress? What do you think? Me, I think it's very necessary and important, and I think it's a way forward in Africa. But what do you think? Let me hear you. Like, let me get your opinion on the comment section. And don't forget, like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.